You're listening to the Just Go Bike podcast. We're all about the culture of bicycling just for the fun of it. Your host, Kathy Murphy from the Morphology podcast and Andrea Parrott from Parrott Talk are joined by a wide variety of guests each week that delve into the social side of cycling. With tales from RAGBRAI Nation, come for the bikes, stay for the fun, and leave with a smile. And now, here are your hosts, Murph.
Hey, that's me.
And AP.
And that's me. Hi, Murph.
Hey, AP, what's new?
Oh, well, in the Casa de Parrot, we have a fenced-in yard.
Oh, what does that mean, a fenced-in yard?
Well, for me, first, it means several things. First of all, we had no fence before, except for around our garden. So it's a enhanced garden fence. And I have a very large garden. If you don't know, listeners, I harvested about 60 pounds of tomatoes last weekend, for example.
Gosh.
I know. So it's maybe a surprise to you, but I have more hobbies than just cycling. So it's kind of weird, but don't judge me for that. But the other thing that the fence means is that I have two large dogs and they get to frolic about in my yard instead of me walking them constantly, which is very fun. But in the winter, it becomes less fun. And this will allow for a little bit more flexibility and exercise for them.
Well, and more freedom for them.
Yeah. So everything's going great so far. However, side note, we just received word that in my neighborhood of Des Moines, a water buffalo has started running loose.
Wait, a water buffalo, like a real live water buffalo?
Yes, like a cow of some kind has been escaped from a trailer and is running around my neighborhood. So I hope... Well, first of all, if they need me to catch it in my new fence, I would be happy to, but they better reimburse me if it breaks it.
Oh my gosh, this is very bizarre.
Yeah, so stay tuned for updates on that, although, who knows what may happen. But I hope the water buffalo right now is frolicking in 4 Mile Creek or whatever in my neighborhood instead of something sad. So,
or maybe hanging out at the state fairgrounds, like in one of the stalls, just like, whoa, look at this.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that'd be great. Probably plenty of food there for it there.
Yeah.
So probably win a blue ribbon. There's probably only one water buffalo, so it has to win the ribbon. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. So all sorts of stuff's been going on with me, but I know that you have been busy with some bike adventures, and that is more on topic with this podcast. So why don't you please tell us all about them?
Okay, yes. So I believe I mentioned it on a previous episode that I was heading to Colorado for not one, but 2 epic bike events.
Yeah.
And so I am back from both of those. I survived. I think I have like super lungs right now because I spent, 8 or 9 days in Colorado. So I should be taking advantage of that. But we're like in heat advisory here in Iowa. So I was out for a while this morning, but I'm not doing super long bike rides. But anyway, that's besides the point. Yeah. So first event I did was SBT Gravel, and that is a gravel event in Steamboat Springs. Super well run, 1-day event, attracts riders, of course, like riders like me, who are just riding it to ride it, but also like elite athletes. Like they were literally there racing to get on the podium. Like there was actually cash on the table. So that was super fun. I got to see some of those people and be, super fangirl.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they had a huge expo where, I've got to meet some of those cyclists. One of them was Meg Fisher. I don't know if you follow her, but she's a Paralympic. So she had her gold medal with her. And so
cool.
She's like at one of the expo booths just talking about hydration and biking. And then somebody's all like, do you carry your medals around? She's like, actually, I do have my gold medal with me. So
That's amazing.
I know. I got to touch it. I did not bite it. You know how the athletes always bite their medals, but I didn't feel that was appropriate. But that was really cool.
Amazing. So, but tell us about the biking part of the event.
Oh, yeah. So that was a 1-day ride. I think I said that, but it was on a Sunday and I had to do the shortest route. There were 4 different options, which was actually ended up being just fine. But I had to do the shortest route because I had to get to the second event, which started the next day. And it was like a 6 or 7 hour drive. So anyway, it's gravel, right? So every state or every county has different types of gravel. I would say most of this was more dirt than gravel, which makes it a little bit easier pedaling. It's not like the super chunky rocky stuff. But I will say the highlight was a pretty significant climb. I think it was called Otter Box climb or Otter something climb. Long, steep. But, okay, you get to the top of it, and it's followed by, I think it was called the Cow Creek segment. Okay? And that one, crazy downhill, big, huge chunky rocks. It wasn't even gravel. It was like rocks and then ruts. And, like, I was holding my breath, I think, most of the way down. And plus you have people passing like they're on pavement because they're either in race mode or much more comfortable on that sort of terrain than I was. But okay, like I said, it's called Cow Creek. And so we come around a corner and then it's a little bit of a climb before you go to another downhill. There was a huge cow just standing like he was standing he or she, let's say she, was standing across the road. So I don't know how the people going super fast in front of me got around the cow, but
oh my God.
Yeah. So you know how on RAGBRAI we're all like, car back or bike passing. So somebody yelled, "Cow up." So I did get a video of it and so we all kind of stopped because these are big animals, I assume that they're used to bikes at this point in the day, but
I don't know though.
Yeah. So
I mean, between your story and my story, this is a very bovine heavy episode of Just Go Bike.
I know. Anyway, the cow found some hay or grass that, kept moving, so we were able to get around it.
Good.
But that was awesome. Good. Okay, so I completed that event, jumped in the car to race to Durango and the start of what's called Colorado's Ride. This was the most beautiful ride I've been on in a long time. It was a 5-day event, not on gravel, it was on pavement, but over many, many mountain passes. And one of the highlights, I would say, most of the roads were lined with, I know that you're also into gardens and flowers, so you'll have to help me out with this, AP, but most of the roads were lined with wildflowers that look like mini sunflowers, they were yellow with like the black dot in the middle. Super cool.
Ooh, beautiful. I mean, there's a bazillion flowers that look just like that, but let's say they're sunflowers because they very well could be.
Well, they were really tiny though, and much more frail looking than sunflowers.
Okay, second answer, black-eyed Susans.
And that's what somebody else said too.
Okay.
So,
all right.
Yeah.
One of the two.
Yeah.
Either way, beautiful.
Yes, yeah. And I will say day one was over 6,000 feet of climb in 50 miles.
Oh my God.
I was definitely second guessing my sanity at this point. And it's not like Rollers of Iowa. It was like a 21-mile long climb up a mountain.
Oh my gosh.
It was crazy. And I would say,
nuts.
Yeah, the whole week was challenging, but full of beauty. We got to explore, some of the small mountain communities. I got to meet a lot of new people. And off the bike, we got to stay at a hot spring. So I got I don't think it was a fountain of youth because I still feel old, but it was definitely.
Dang it.
It was awesome. And then we also got to take like an old steam engine train ride, which was pretty sweet.
Oh. Well, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
What a vacation.
Yeah. And I'd say, overall, like people listening to this, if you're looking for like a post RAGBRAI challenge, you've got your legs from riding across Iowa, I would say this is a really good, fun challenge, something different. It's called Colorado's Ride. Go to coloradosride.com, check it out. But I am also going to be doing an episode on my podcast about it. So stay tuned for that.
And your podcast is called?
The Murphology Podcast.
Very good. Okay, great.
Yeah.
I would say that is one thing to use the hilliest RAGBRAI ever for is to train for a ride like this with 6,000 feet of elevation.
Yeah.
I mean, geez.
And I will say, I think we ended up doing about the same, 18,000 feet of elevation over about 300 miles. And I was never really like sore. So I felt like my body was in tune, but it was the mental game of like 21 miles of climbing is just too far for this gal.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's intense. I'm really proud of you for doing this mega event, 2 mega events in a row.
Yeah,
that sound very challenging, but I do know you enjoyed it, but I'm still proud of you.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Yeah,
it was fun.
Okay, so it's hard to top those 2 rides. What next for you?
Well, a little ride, a one-day ride sponsored by RAGBRAI called the Great Iowa Fall Ride.
Ooh, oh, we're so excited for the fall ride over here at RAGBRAI HQ. It can't compare to a grand Colorado tour, but it will be a beautiful tour of Des Moines, and hopefully we'll see some fall colors along the way. And that ride is September 14th, Saturday, September 14th. And it starts right here at RAGBRAI HQ here just south of downtown Des Moines.
Yeah, I'm excited. And you and
Me
I
too.
get to ride together, don't we?
We get to ride together. So reunion on bikes. We haven't biked together since the RAGBRAI pre-ride. So it has been quite a long time now.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
I know. We might match in outfit, but I don't think we're going to match in bike because I think I'm going to ride my steel bike for this.
I think I'm going to ride my steel bike as well. So
Okay,
in theory, same
Yeah.
material of bike, but different
Yeah.
colors.
Different colors because I'm not painting mine. But so I'm obviously looking forward to it. Pretty excited. And yes, there is a Hawkeye game that day, but it's in the later afternoon. So you can get your riding done in the morning or ride to a place that would have it on TV and enjoy and come back. So it's a pretty casual route this year, a pretty casual ride. Just more of a celebration of enjoying the bike trails of Des Moines than anything else.
And the bike trails of Des Moines are amazing. So I'm excited about it.
Amazing. Yeah. So you can find out more about that actually at ragbrai.com. We'll have it here on our RAGBRAI website. We have all the info that you would need.
Cool.
So the other cool thing I should mention about the fall ride is surrounding it for registered riders. We have a mega garage sale going on where we'll have a lot of our stuff. We cleaned out our warehouse and we have a lot of stuff for sale at insanely cheap prices. We just went through the pricing yesterday and through some of the items we're going to have. We have like 30 of those orange construction style coolers with the little spigot at the bottom. I have used them before to make punch in them, but these are all clean. And then we have like folding tables and we have like 100 bike pumps and we have different chairs and things. But we also we're going to be selling our foosball table and our ping pong table from here at HQ. So really runs a gamut. And then we also have all sorts of merch that are going to be on huge discounts. So you can get your jerseys, your shorts, your bibs at a rock bottom price.
Okay.
So keep an eye on our social media. We'll have pictures and more information about those coming right up.
Okay. I'm thinking, do I need more RAGBRAI merchandise? The answer is always yes.
Yes. Yep. So enough about our spectacular rides. Who do we have on for this very last RAGBRAI 2024 recap episode?
Yes. So this is the fourth in a series. So if you haven't listened to the first three, please do so. We have 4 more riders that called in and gave some really good interviews. So I'll give you like a super brief scoop on it. We have Drew from Connecticut who talks about what RAGBRAI means to him and how much fun he had turning strangers into friends, which I think we all have those sorts of stories.
That's amazing. And didn't we meet a bunch of people from Connecticut at the expo?
Yeah, well, I think we did.
All the nutmegs.
Yeah.
Like a local. Yeah, I remember Okay.
Okay,
cool.
Next is Kisha and Dan from Illinois. They're a married couple. They decided for their very first RAGBRAI that they would be completely self-contained, self-supported, which means everything they needed for the week was on their bike. So they went all out. Let's go for heavy bikes on the hilliest year, and they have a really fun story to share.
Wow, cool. I mean, that's ambitious. That's awesome. And they're still married.
Yes. Yes.
Cool.
Then we hear from Babbu, who lives in Iowa City, and her family, a big group of them, jumped in on the route for the last day. Oh. She was so excited. This was a highlight of her year. There was a crew of 9 of them, and this included her 3 13-year-old triplets. Which is pretty cool.
Wow.
How do you get teenagers to do a bike ride, but all 3 of them?
Wow, yeah.
And then also her husband, who was a national cyclist in India. So they have biking in their genes. So it's a really cool story from her.
Oh, neat. Yeah, apparently that's awesome.
Yep. And then finally we have Tiffani and Ali. They're from Idaho, and they are from a team called Team Mustard. They have such a funny story about their team name and about their, what they stand for. And spoiler alert, it does include mustard. So
Ooh, exciting.
Yeah.
Great condiment. Love that condiment.
Yeah.
10
yeah.
out of 10. Yeah.
Yeah. And they also are podcasters. So they have a podcast called Frank and Honest, and it's about cultivating happiness. So we'll put that in the show notes in case, somebody wants to tune into another podcast.
Oh, I love that. We clearly saved some of the best ones for last. It sounds like such a fun episode. I can't wait to hear. Let's get to it.
All right. All right, everybody, let's give a warm welcome to Drew. Hey, Drew.
Hey, Murph.
Thanks for coming on the podcast to share a little bit about your RAGBRAI LI.
Oh, you're welcome.
Before we get into it, do you want to tell listeners either where you're from, where you live now, or if you have any ties to Iowa?
So right now, I'm originally from Vermont. Right now, I live in Connecticut. I have no ties to Iowa. I've been there twice, both for RAGBRAI.
Really? Okay, so that's a good story in itself. What made you decide to come to the center of the United States to Iowa?
So about a year, so in the fall of 2022, my daughter came to me and said, Dad, we should do this thing called RAGBRAI. What the heck is RAGBRAI? So I looked it up and I was like, oh my. And I'm like, and I thought to myself, when was the last time I did something really outside of my comfort zone, like riding your bike 500 miles across Iowa? I'm like, I haven't done anything like that in a long time. And my daughter's asking me, you know what? Let's go for it. So last year we drove out and we survived barely the heat last year and the crowds. And my daughter had a rough week and decided not to come back this year, but I had enough of experience of fun that week that I wanted to come back. So I came back this year to do it again. And a couple of weeks ago, I heard a story about what joy is. And so RAGBRAI is joy because equal parts playfulness, connection with others, and flow. So flow is where, time doesn't matter. You can just kind of get up and, there's no real schedule and you can kind of go at your own pace.
Yeah.
And, the connection with others. I'm like, here you are with, 10,000 people on bikes. Like, how much fun is that? And it's so RAGBRAI. What I found is it's so easy to start conversations with people. Like, how many times have you done RAGBRAI? Oh, I see you virgin on your leg, or, where are you from? And, and everybody's on their bike. And so everybody has that thread that connects them, which is it's just so awesome. And you don't find that everywhere. And that's what, I think that's what makes RAGBRAI special, is that you have that thread that connects you.
Yeah, and it could be 10, 15, 20,000 people that are all strangers, but they all have that, like you said, that connection. So for me, it's so easy to start a conversation with people.
Oh yeah. So this year my RAGBRAI started at the air. So this year I flew out to Omaha. So the thing I learned is you can't curbside check a bike. Got to take it inside. Things I learned. Anyway, so I'm standing in line. And there's a guy in the front of the line with a bike box. I'm like, what are the odds that he's going to RAGBRAI too? I bet they're pretty good. And so I just said to him, RAGBRAI? He goes, absolutely.
Oh, right.
So this guy, his name is Pierre, and he's from Massachusetts. And we had such a fantastic time on the way to Omaha. We sat on the plane together. We shared a beverage in Chicago while we were waiting for our next plane. I ran into him a couple times during the week, and it was such a hoot because I would just run into him, and he was like an old friend, even though I had only met him on the Friday before RAGBRAI. So, which was just fantastic.
Oh, for sure, yeah. And did you ride with a team or a charter, or were you solo?
So I rode with I rode with a charter.
Uh-huh.
But I didn't have any riding companion. So, I got to go to my charter at the end of the day, which was fantastic. Because honestly, I'm really lazy, and they set up my tent for me. And And so, that this makes the end of my day really nice because I don't have to find my stuff. It's like it's already. I just need to find out where our camp is.
Yeah.
Which is super nice. So, but I rode solo. So, going through the day, I had the freedom to kind of, ride at my own pace. And, if I saw something I liked, I would stop and, or I could just keep going. And I stopped quite a bit. And I this year, I made the point to not just to stop wherever I felt like it and like not be hold on by time, not be holding to like, what time is it? Like, where do I have to be? And like, no, it doesn't matter. As long as I get to camp before it gets too late. And, if we have food, there's still some food left for me, and keep ahead of the state patrol, so they're not saying, okay, you guys got to move along.
Yeah.
So that only happened once. I only get kicked out of the beer town once. So I thought that was a pretty good week. So I rode solo, met a lot of cool people. One of the other stories, I ran into this woman in Eddiesville, I think, and she had this very old twin. I was like, wow. I said, how old is that bike? She goes, well, not really sure. I have to check the serial number. I should probably look into that. But she goes, but I remember this was the bike I took on my first RAGBRAI in 1980.
Whoa.
I'm like, whoa, holy cow. 1980. I'm like, she goes, yeah, it's changed quite a bit. I'm like, yeah, I would think so.
Wow. I would have loved to seen that bike and just like how it was holding up after that many years.
I have a picture. I'll send you a picture, Murph.
Yeah, I'd love to see it. So give your take on the bike ride, the hills, the heat, a little bit of headwind. Like, how did it feel for you?
It wasn't bad. I mean, Connecticut's not like Iowa. It's not flat. There's plenty of hills here. So, my training was trying to do as many hills as I could. I didn't probably get as much mileage as I wanted, but I definitely got enough hills. So the hills didn't really bother me too much. I mean, the headwind on Friday though was miserable. Everybody at my camp and our charter was like Friday was the hardest day because it was so windy. The rest of the week was just, I want to say it was easy, but there really wasn't any wind. And it really wasn't that hot. We were so lucky this year with the weather.
Right.
About the only thing that the weather threw me for the loop was I needed to borrow a blanket because I didn't bring enough clothes to sleep.
Oh, that's interesting.
Because it was too cool, and after last year I was like, oh no, what I have is fine, it'll be fine. And then, the first night I was like, I thought I was going to freeze to death.
Well, and it's such a weird, the temperature was cooler, but it was also so humid.
Yes. Yeah, it was really humid, but it was cool. And so, and Sunday was Sunday was so foggy, so misty and so foggy, which was so weird.
Which was both like beautiful and creepy at the same time, and a little bit scary because, if you didn't see somebody's tail light on their bike, you came up on them pretty quick.
Oh yeah, and there was one place on Sunday, we were going down a hill, and then we had to make I don't remember where this was. It was in the morning, and we were going downhill, and we had to make a right turn, and it was like, okay, I'm kind of speeding up, and it's like, oh, whoa, I need to turn here.
I remember it was still foggy like that in the morning, and we were going down a hill, and then it was pretty congested. So then as we started to go up the hill, it must have gotten very congested. So I don't know if it was because of the fog. And so that's when everybody was all like, everyone has to stop. We have to get off our bikes and walk. And I thought for sure that's when, all kinds of accidents would happen. But everyone was, on the same wavelength.
And I think Sunday wasn't bad. There were definitely a couple wrecks on Sunday, which was sort of unfortunate.
Yep. What, if you were to give someone advice that maybe wants to do RAGBRAI, but, kind of like you did, like you saw, you understood what it was about, and then you made the plunge to come try it, what advice would you give someone?
Well, I would say sign up, understand what your comfort zone is, right? Because some people like to set up their own tent and do their own thing, and that's fine. And if that's not your thing, you can definitely make it your own. But definitely lots of pre-riding, lots of training beforehand, and understand that RAGBRAI is as much mental as it is physical. Because
yeah.
hey, we rode 75 miles yesterday, but hey, this morning when you wake up, you got to do another 80. Ooh. So you have to be, you got to be mentally ready for that. Like, okay, yeah, we did really great yesterday. Okay, well, that was yesterday. Today's today.
Yeah.
And we got to get another 60 miles or whatever it is, whatever today's ride is. We've got to do that too. And so, that's what I would say is understand that it's as much mental as it is physical.
I completely agree. Okay, so last question. Do you think he'll come back again and do RAGBRAI again?
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
Great. Yeah, I definitely want to come back and do it again. Got to see what my schedule looks like for next year, but I definitely want to come back and do it again. Hopefully I can get my daughter to do it, and maybe both my I have two girls, and maybe I can get both of them to do it at the same time.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. We'll be cheering you on to welcome you back to Iowa and maybe bring those kids with you too.
Oh, thanks, Murph.
Yeah. Well, thanks for coming on the podcast.
Oh, you're welcome. Anytime.
Kisha and Dan are joining us next. Hello, guys.
Hi.
Hello.
How's it going?
Very good. Thank you.
Are you recovered from RAGBRAI yet?
Yes, very much.
Okay, great. Well, before we get into your story, will you tell the listeners either where you live now or where you came from, or if you have any Iowa ties?
Sure. So we live in Geneseo, Illinois, which is about 20 minutes east of Davenport, so just across the river. And so our daughter lives in Dubuque, and so we're back and forth. We have a grandson. She has our first grandson that lives there as well. And so that's kind of our Iowa ties, if you will. But my husband's been born and raised here and in and out of Iowa his whole life and for things. So my daughter-in-law is from a small little town in Iowa, but we've gone to like the Drake relays and gotten to do some of that, watching that. And but yeah, I'm actually from a small little Southern Illinois town. So I've moved up here and I've lived up here for about 20 some years.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And you're so close to Iowa that,
Yes.
especially if you have a grandbaby to visit,
Yes.
you're in Iowa probably quite a bit.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, how many RAGBRAIs have you done?
This is our very first RAGBRAI. So RAGBRAI 51 was our virgin ride, if you will. So
wow, this is going to be a fun story then.
yes, it was a blast.
What made you decide that RAGBRAI 51 was the year?
So ironically, like we actually kind of thought about doing RAGBRAI for 50, but my son got married and set the wedding date a week before the start of RAGBRAI. So he got married July 15th of last year. And so we decided to, with all the festivities, to just wait a year. And honestly, I'm just really, really glad we did. I think that this was just the perfect year for us to be there. And but I've been following it for just part of the pages, part of the groups for a year. And the more you're involved in that, I feel like, and the more you see and the stories you see, it just really, I don't know, it just sort of got us more and more excited as it got close, just seeing people's stories and just the takeaways from it and seeing some of the things that were to come was just really exciting. Seeing the board post on the RAGBRAI page and just the towns and all the work that they put into it, it just really, I don't know, just got super exciting for us. So
good. And hopefully like the build up, right? Seeing all those Facebook pages was actually also true when you were actually on RAGBRAI.
Yeah, absolutely. I was more than we could have ever have dreamt or expected. Like even just seeing the things and what went into it, I honestly can't put into words what the ride actually was in comparison to what I thought going into it.
Oh, that's awesome to hear. And tell us how you did RAGBRAI or who you did RAGBRAI with.
So me and my husband, we were just our own little team. We did it together. We just decided that this is what we're going to do. We're gonna go at it, and started following some of the pages and getting into it. And along that lines, at some point, I ended up finding the RAGBRAI baggers page, and then we decided, well, that's interesting. And so we decided, it's our first time. Let's just go all in. And so we did. And so we decided to go self-supported, and we each got prepared for that. And again, that baggers page, the people on it that have done it so many times, that were incredible at helping and giving advice and encouragement and tips. And so we got all the things and found all the lightest weight tents that we could find, and the amount of outfits that were recommended and all the things. And we just felt very prepared going into it. So we decided to do it together and do it self-supported. So that's what we did.
Nothing like going deep into your
Absolutely.
first year. I mean, if you're going to do it, go all out, right?
That's what we decided. Yep.
And for those listeners who maybe don't understand what bagger means, it's literally, correct me if I'm wrong, but literally everything that you need for RAGBRAI is on your bicycle, with the exception of like food and water. You refill that as you go, but like your tent, your clothing, everything, right?
Everything. Yeah. We had a tent, and we had some little backpacking type little blow up kind of cot mattress things that were super lightweight. We each had one of those, and then a blanket. We had all of our toiletries, and then we each took 3 outfits. And so we knew that we could wash them at some point. We had some great host families that we were able to camp in their yards. Whether it's using sinks to wash clothes or we went to a laundromat where we found a lot of other RAGBRAIers, not just baggers, but a lot of other RAGBRAIers and stuff that also use the laundromat. So we ran into some there. But yeah, we had everything. We had a little case for our batteries to run our phones and charge our things. But yeah, we had it all on our bikes.
That's amazing. And
yeah.
I already know this because you wrote it in your notes, but as far as fitness goes, I mean, we're talking, you're not on even if you are on a 20-pound bike, you are now adding lots and lots of weight. And this was the hilliest RAGBRAI. So tell us a little bit about your background and if you were prepared physically for this year.
So this is kind of a fun little story. So a lot of people have asked us that question, and we've had a lot of people say, like, oh my gosh, I could never do it. I just don't have the time to put on my bike and all the things. And so honestly, prior to RAGBRAI, and this may shock a lot of people, especially going self-supported, we each had about 40 pounds on our bikes added weight. So not a light bike by any means, but prior to this, we did one 25-mile ride and like a 15-mile ride, and then just a bunch of little things around town. So
no way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So outside of that, though, to explain a little further, I work out like 6 to 7 days a week, and my husband works out about 5 days a week. And in that training is a lot of assault bike work that we do. And so if anyone's familiar with an assault bike, it's kind of like going with a bike into headwinds for a long period of time. It's kind of like the faster you go, the more resistance you get. And that's kind of, so we do a lot of assault bike training. And so I think that that's kind of where most of our time on the seat takes place, but gives us a lot of leg strength and a lot of resistance on the bike too. So I think that that's really kind of what helped in preparing us a lot for the hills. And the added weight that we were carrying was the resistance in the assault bike.
And also years prior, we've done 100-mile rides in one day. So we know what a 100-mile ride was like.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
But were those 100-mile rides in the past also weighted down bikes?
No, they were not. Nope, that was all new this time. So,
well, do you have any like memorable experiences on your first RAGBRAI that you want to share?
Gosh, there's so many. I think so for me, it's just truly being able to experience this with my husband. We've been married. We actually just celebrated our 20th anniversary this year in June. So we've been married 20 years, and I'll be 40 in August. And I think that this has just been such a fun year in itself. But as much as, you do all these things and see what you see, being out there and seeing the adaptive bikers was the most inspiring thing. I met one lady, and this is why I love just riding. We were in no hurry to get anywhere. And I've had people ask us if the weight slowed us down. And I was like, you know what? I'm not really sure because I have nothing to compare it to. But it was a joy that it did in times because we got to ride along some of these bikers and really spend some time talking with them. And one biker that I met, she is just a year, as she lost her leg a year ago. And this was kind of her goal to do after she lost her leg. And it was just a really cool story to hear that. And but then also just seeing some of the locals, like we met this one guy, I think it was day 3 or I think it was day 3. And he was just giving away free lemonade and water and cookies on the side of the road. And we stopped, we saw a free sign, free Gatorade and free cookies. We were like, okay.
Yeah.
But I didn't know what was in store after I stopped. We stopped there and, there's a lot of people, and then got to talking to the gentleman. He was a retired Marine. And he said that he's been doing this for about 20 years. And he goes every RAGBRAI and he travels he picks one spot every time and he sits up on one of the days. And this is what he does. He brings in bucket loads of Gatorade. His whole family bakes these cookies. And he actually has a sign that says, if you try to give him money, he's going to give you a 10-pound sandbag to carry. So he was adamant that he wanted no money for it. He just felt like this is what he could do to support the riders. And it's just stories like that you see that, a lot of people are focused on the riders, but it brings it. I seriously get tears in my eyes when I think about entering some of these towns and seeing the joy and the locals and the neighborhood and just, the handing out the popsicles and the, gentlemen sitting out in their lawn chairs with their hose, ready to spray you. It's those little things that really just encourage and keep you going. And even on the days when you're like, I don't know if I can do another mile, whatever it be, but it's just, I don't know, every town you enter is just a different experience. And I think for me, it was just those memories that I've held on to. And I can picture these faces and these moments that really bring it to life for me. So
yeah, I really think the people, it's really hard to talk to people who don't do RAGBRAI or have never done RAGBRAI, to be able to say every mile, every minute is different.
Yes.
And there's people everywhere, but you don't know, most of them are strangers. And like you said, just taking the time to talk to people is just so everyone has an inspiring story.
Absolutely. And I've loved getting to hear so many of them. And even post RAGBRAI, I've had some friends that have joined some of the pages and heard some of the stories, and they're like, oh my goodness, I saw this story that someone shared. And I'm like, yeah, because this is really what RAGBRAI is about. It's more than the bike this is what I keep telling people. The biking is what brings the people together, but it's everything in between that unites us. It's just the biking is a central theme, but there's so much culture, so much diversity and age and fitness levels and experiences. It's just such a cool experience and zero competition.
Right.
So that's a whole, I've never seen a sport bring this many people together when there's nothing offered for a price.
Yeah.
It's just the joy of it.
And we're all slightly crazy in that we're taking, PTO and vacation to suffer across the state because it's so crazy. Amazing.
But then once you get a taste of it, I'm like, man, I can't wait to sign up for next year. So let's do this.
Yeah. Okay. So I had 2 questions, and one of them was, do you think you'll come back and do it again?
Absolutely.
But you've already answered that.
Yep.
And then the other one was any advice you'd give to someone who maybe has heard of RAGBRAI but hasn't done it yet?
Do it. I mean, my biggest thing was I didn't think that I could either. I've never ridden this many miles especially day after day after day like this. But I tell you what, we woke up the next morning and we felt fantastic. We were ready to go on, but just do it. Just sign up and do it. And I was trying to encourage a friend, and I'm like, you know what? If you have a driver or whatever it is, you can take a day off. You can skip a day and go to the next, sleepover town. You can do just one day of it even. But I promise you do one day and you're going to get a taste of it and you're going to want some more. But yes, I just do it. Don't wait. You're going to wish that you did it sooner, no matter when you sign up. We signed up this year and I wish I would have done it 10 years ago.
Yeah, for sure.
So, yeah.
And like you said, I mean, you can do RAGBRAI any way that you want. You can, be self-contained like you
Yes.
are. You can hotel it, RV it, use the
Yep.
official baggage trucks. Like you can do
Yep.
RAGBRAI a gazillion different ways. So
And that's one of the things that I love about it, is that it offers so much for so many people, and there's no one way better than the other. And I shared my story on one of the Facebook groups, and it's just, I was met with nothing but encouragement and kindness. But I wanted to make it very clear that I've never felt at any point that one way was better than another.
yeah.
And sometimes sometimes there's like slack and little teasing towards certain writers, and it is what it is. And I ignore all of that. You just have to pick what you want. But at one point, someone was passing me and they're like, oh, I feel like you're kicking my butt. And I'm like, you know what? Here's the thing. I really pushed it up those hills because I knew if I got it done in 15 seconds, it was over really fast. So
Sure.
go really hard and get it done. But the second I got to the top, I was spent. So everyone that I just passed, they're passing me now, and I won't see them again. And I was okay with that. Just get up the hill for me. And that's kind of how it was. My husband, took his time up the hills, and we met at the end. And but yeah, it's like, there were some people walking up the hills, and there were some people with assisted bikes, and it did not matter.
Right.
What I loved is that we could all come together at our own level and our own pace, and we could do this thing called RAGBRAI together. And that's just the coolest thing. So
And
not many sports can complete that.
Yeah, I was going to say, so well said.
Mhm.
Like that's a great way to end this interview because you nailed it. So
Yeah. It accomplishes something I've never seen before. That's for sure.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming on the
course.
podcast, Dan. You too. And
Thank you.
hopefully we can meet each other next year when you come back.
Yeah, I would love that. Yeah, I'd love that.
Okay, we have another guest on the podcast. Will you tell us all your name and where you live?
Yes, my name is Babbu and I live in Iowa City.
Iowa City. And you got to experience RAGBRAI this year.
Yes, yeah. It's my first time this year.
Tell us about your experience.
Yeah, I went with my family and friends, and it's like goosebumps when I think about that experience. I love riding my bike with so many other people. There were like so many riders, and everybody was so nice, cheerful. I love that experience.
And did you train for your RAGBRAI experience or did you just jump on a bike and go?
I just jumped on my bike that day and decided to join the RAGBRAI. I didn't go on my bike. It's been a year. So that was quite an experience. Later that I felt that.
The next day and probably the day after that.
Yes, yeah. My body was sore.
Well, tell us about the people that you were riding with.
Yeah, my one of our friends, Vikas Kalia, and one more friend from Cedar Rapids also, and my husband and my triplets. We were like 9 people in the team. So we did that together.
And how old are the triplets?
My triplets just turned in July 13 years old.
Okay, so they were all on their own bikes.
Yes, they were.
And did they go, okay, so a teenager sometimes may not want to do what mom wants to do. So
Yeah.
did they willingly go on this adventure or did you tell them they were going to go?
No, they love riding bike with my husband because he was a national cyclist in India.
Oh, wow.
So yes, so they are always excited about riding cycle.
So does your husband ride year round?
Yes, yeah, he does.
And he was, would you call that a professional cyclist when he was in India?
India, yes. He won national award as well in India, bronze medal.
Wow, that's exciting.
Yes.
So that's maybe how you probably got the
Yes,
bug
we
to want to.
inspired.
Yes. Wow.
We just go on the trails around the city.
Mm-hmm.
Because my husband is mostly busy with the business, so whenever we get chance, then we go around the community, like trails and parks. That's all.
So then when you were on RAGBRAI this year, Now I'm already forgetting what Saturday was like. There were a few hills. I don't remember if it was windy, but did you?
It was windy.
It was windy. Okay, so tell us
Yes.
about your riding day.
That day we started, it was like light shady, cloudy.
Uh-huh.
So we started really nice weather, and we had like all over the place we experienced wind. And the hill was not that bad because it was only 1064 mile, I think,
Feet.
elevations.
Yep.
Otherwise, it wasn't bad. Yeah.
And do you think this is something you would come back and do again?
Oh yes, we are all excited about next year. We start planning already.
Oh, great. And would you do it like the whole week where you would have to either have a homestay or a camping at night?
Yeah, we really wanted to do whole week. So we are finding out about the tent services that they are providing because we met people in the RAGBRAI. They told us they provide tents throughout the RAGBRAI. So now we are excited to do whole week.
Oh, wow. Okay, so
Yeah.
when do you start training for a week-long event like this?
We will start like 2 months earlier for the cycle riding. We'll go around the roads. We have rural roads here, like so we can go on that and train ourselves.
And yeah, I'm familiar with Iowa City where you live, and you can find some pretty steep hills that have nice trails. So you could get all kinds of practice in.
Yes, over there. Yeah, we will definitely try that.
And I would guess with your husband's background, he could be your coach. He could teach
Yes,
you
he
how
is.
to how to ride.
He's always on our push side. Do it. Go out from the house. So he's pretty good at it. So
Yeah.
we're excited.
And do you think that your triplets will want to do it too?
Yes, they want to. They want to. They are all ready. My son, he did like 47 miles on Saturday. He completed like we didn't hope on him like he will complete that day, but one of my triplets, he did really well.
Oh,
So they are excited.
that's great. Well, thank you for coming on the podcast to share your story. And hopefully, if you come next year, we'll be able to meet in person.
Yeah, sure, we will. I'm excited for next year. I will definitely jump on your radio again. Thank you so much.
A very warm welcome to both Tiffani and Ali. Hello, ladies.
Hello, hello.
Hello, hello, hello.
Thanks for coming on the podcast. And right before we push record, I was telling you, you have a very unique team name. And in my, cluster of stuff I acquired over the week, I found one of your stickers. So apparently we met, even if it was brief. So hello again.
Yes, Team Jedi Mustard for the win. Yeah, it was cool to get to know you or to meet you at the expo briefly. But yeah, we were hustling stickers the whole ride. So I'm glad you got one home.
Yeah, I need to figure out a good place. Like the best place for stickers sometimes is your RAGBRAI tote or your laptop or your drinking, vessel. So I got to figure out the perfect place.
Yeah.
Ups our cooler. Yeah, I got one on my computer.
Well, tell us, let's start with that team name, how it came to be and what exactly it means.
Okay. So one of our teammates, Peter, so he's the one that got us into RAGBRAI, really. He's like, hey, you guys should do RAGBRAI. And we're like, okay, only if you do it. And he said, okay, I have a team name for us. And he said Jedi Mustard. And it was his fantasy baseball name. But to us, when he said Jedi Mustard, we're like, that's perfect, because one of our things we do on rides is eat mustard, because you can get mustard packets from any convenience store. And eating mustard is a lot like drinking pickle juice.
Really?
So it helps with, yeah. And so when he said Jedi Mustard, we're like, oh, it's the force of the mustard.
Let the mustard be with.
Yeah.
Yes.
So to us, it just made sense. Like Jedi Mustard, let's rock and roll this thing.
So are you guys actually serious that mustard has a lot of the same qualities as pickle juice?
Yeah, it's definitely. It's actually, so prior to using it for cycling, Ali cramps up pretty bad, and she'll just cramp up randomly. And we learned, I don't know how this came about. I think we were in the truck, we were working, we were traveling back and forth, and we had some random mustard packets, and she just started pounding mustard packets. And it worked. Like, I was thoroughly disgusted by what was going on, but it worked. And then we transitioned, and I'm like, okay, well, maybe we do this on purpose.
Yeah, and then so we asked some of our nutritionist buddies that, they know more about this stuff than we do. And they're like, yeah, it totally makes sense with the salt and the vinegar and the different components of it. And it's the traditional yellow mustard. Don't get fancy with it. It's just straight yellow mustard. It totally works.
Yeah.
And pencils.
Yeah, and it was funny too, because we were sharing this with a number of people, because we got asked this question several times at RAGBRAI, and most people were like, "Nah, you guys are crazy." But there was a handful of people. They were like, "Yeah, my sister is like a PhD in nutrition, and she studies this whole thing, and it's totally real." And I'm like, I know. So we were actually handing out mustard packets on the ride, trying to encourage people to try it.
Wow. Well, and it's like the perfect little packaging because, like you said, convenience stores have those little packets of mustard. You could probably buy them on Amazon by the case. And can you?
Totally. Full disclosure, if you don't eat them within about 8 months, they do go a little bad. They get a little
they taste the same, but they get a little thick, and it's not as awesome, but it still works.
Interesting. And they're so easy to transport because, it's not like you can put a jar of pickles in your jersey pocket, but you can put a little mustard packet. I don't know that I've ever eaten mustard without, as its own entity instead of as a condiment. So I'm not opposed to trying it, but I'm a little skeptical.
Yeah, you should be. I was too. It's an acquired taste, but it's funny now. So at the ride, I actually baked up some russet potatoes, and I had a baked potato in my pocket, and I was crushing baked mustard at the stops because I'm like, I don't want this fried stuff. Like, it kind of messes with your tummy or whatever. But I'm just, got a baked potato in my pocket and some mustard packets, just having a heyday.
So there's got to be people out there listening that were like, oh my God, I did see somebody eating a potato with mustard. And now they know who it was.
There were only a handful of people doing it. So.
And they all had Jedi Mustard shirts on. So.
That's awesome. Well, okay. So besides mustard and potatoes, give us some good memories from your experience on RAGBRAI this year.
Oh man, there were a lot. It was probably so we've never done a multi-day ride before.
Oh.
Not like that, especially.
Yeah, not an organized one.
We'll ride several days in a row and do our own unsupported rides at home, but not with 18,000 people. So it was I think I left saying that was probably the most fun I've had. It was on my top memories, right next to going to New Zealand.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, I had so much fun. The physical effort is one thing, and looking back and saying, whoa, 500 miles that's a lot of miles.
Mm-hmm.
But it was also really cool because I'd never been to Nebraska. I've never driven through Nebraska. I'd never even been to Iowa. And there's a lot of corn.
Yeah.
Yes.
Some of the fun parts were really, the ride was awesome. Being able to ride and take over the road was super cool. And then some of our most fun things were the people that we met along the way. So we were camping, and we were self-supported. So we had a little crew. So we made this little cohort of friends that we went town to town with. And it was like we had our little posse. And it was fun to make new friends and see all the different people doing it. One of my favorite parts was seeing, because you had so many riders, mm-hmm. and they ran the gambit of age,
bike style,
everything, the whole gambit of, and you look around and you're like, wow, people, the limiting factor to do you want to ride across Iowa is answering the question, do you want to ride across Iowa?
Right.
Yeah.
Like all you have to do is say yes. And then people were figuring it out and having a good time doing it. Everybody was smiling. It was really fun for us, for people to mention the hills. And it was a really big deal, all the hills down there, which is understandable when you see most, northern Iowa. It's pretty flat up there. But for us, we're like, yeah, these hills are great. They all end so soon.
Yeah, like several mile climb is normal for us. So when we have these like half-mile climb, or the longest climb is a mile, they're more like rollers to us. And I had such a hoot. It was so fun, even with the headwind and like grouping up with people and getting in. I think we had a train going because we were blocking the wind for several people, and Ali and I were leapfrogging, breaking the wind. And at one point, I think somebody told us we had like 30 people behind us.
Wow.
Which is so cool because it's, I don't know, just the community effort and the whole camaraderie with the whole thing was really awesome. But then also to help pull people through the wind that were struggling was, I don't know, I just had a really good time. And especially up those hills, looking back, like when we went into this, I didn't go into the ride with a goal necessarily, like I'm going to try to have this time or this. Like I was just along for the ride. But what was wild to see was after we finished and some of the stats we kicked up, I was like,
that was pretty cool.
That was pretty cool. Like we finished top, like Ali and I took the QOM of several of the climbs, and then for the most part we were in the top 10 or top 25 on Strava, which was so cool because it wasn't like, that wasn't what I was trying to do going into it, but just kind of a fun reflection moment, and made it just that much more fun.
And a fun bonus. Now I doubt that you're going to stay QOM for the whole year, but it'll be incentive to come back to Iowa again sometime and ride those same roads.
Seriously, you guys got to put that route together again. Maybe. I don't know if it'd be possible to get 20,000 feet of elevation gain in Iowa, but golly, 19 was pretty close.
Yeah. And okay, so you kind of were, dare I say, bragging about how our rolling hills are no big deal. So you have to tell us where you live that has stronger elevation, stronger climbs than Iowa.
Oh, we live in good old Pocatello, Idaho, in southeast Idaho.
And what's the terrain like there?
There's mountains all around. We sometimes will drive over to Grand Teton National Park.
Oh, wow.
We're in that area and ride some of those. But yeah, there's mountains all around us. Our valley, we're surrounded by mountains, and the peaks are 7,000-8,000 feet, and we're in the smaller mountain area. Really, Idaho has some pretty big mountains, but the peaks around us are 7,000-8,000 feet. Most of our rides that we go on that are longer, they consist of some pretty good elevation gain. We have to try really hard to get a flat route.
There's only one route that we call it fast and flat. But yeah, you can go out just on some frontage roads and hit some flat stuff. There's always like a headwind or tailwind depending on what time of day you're rolling. But we also are at like 4,000 feet elevation ish. And I didn't realize that Iowa was like around 1,000 feet.
Yeah, if that.
Yeah, so that was also kind of a come up to see, just be limited up with those rollers at a lower elevation and just having a good time. It was so much fun.
Yeah, you had the power lungs because you came from higher elevation, and the power legs because you're used to mountain climbing.
Yeah, so it was a really good time. The ride was really, really fun.
Okay, so think about, it was your first RAGBRAI, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so think of all the gear that you took, clothing, basically everything. Would you say that you packed too much, not enough, or just right?
Oh, far too much.
Yeah.
Far too much. In retrospect, we didn't need 60 goos.
Oh my God.
You didn't need 60 goos. We didn't need 32 waffles and 18 packs of peanut butter. We could have got by with probably a quarter as much, but we had no idea. We had no idea how well supported it was.
Oh my gosh.
It was so cool.
Yeah, and just even the mechanics and all that stuff and the food.
Oh yeah, we brought like 8 spare tubes.
Oh geez.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
we brought some stuff. We could have hopped on with the Air Force team and helped them, help fix people up with how much we brought.
Yeah. At one single flat, I did have to replace my chain because I don't know what exactly happened, but my chain broke. I bent a link in my chain and had to I had to get that fixed up. But yeah, the only thing I look back and I'm like, what would I do different is we got an Airbnb one day so we could do some laundry. But I would scratch that plan, just camp the whole time and just take more bike shorts. And we just washed our jerseys like in the showers and stuff like that to keep it simple. But more bike shorts because I definitely don't want to wear those more than once.
Right. Yeah, I definitely overpacked clothing, and I've done this, I've done RAGBRAI many, many, many times, but still I was, at the last second, I'm like, gosh, do I need another sweatshirt? Which, there's times when Iowa, it's, in the 40s at night versus 80s or 90s. So it just, you never know.
Yeah. And we really, because neither of us had really been to Iowa too much.
Right. So,
and our buddy from Iowa didn't want to tell us about the weather because he was afraid it was going to be, 95 and 95% humidity. So he was just sort of letting that slide under the radar until we got there. And then the weather was perfect this year. I thought it was amazing.
Yeah, it really was. So after it's all said and done, you're back in Idaho. Do you think you'll come back to Iowa and do it again?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. And I think our team will be a little bit bigger. We have some people that want to join Team Jedi Mustard, which is fun. But yeah, totally. It's already, we're already talking about next year and what we do different and some of the fun stuff that will change going into it. But oh, yeah.
I know I am definitely putting it on my list to at least try a packet of mustard without anything else with it. And, maybe if I like it, I'll ask to become an honorary member of your team.
There you go.
There you go.
Works. Just use your imagination,
It's a little funky at first to get used to. But so what I ended up really enjoying is like when you're riding several days in a row and you like all the electrolyte drinks. And if you're just relying on goos or high energy gels or whatever, like I get sugared out. I'm just totally over the sugar. Mm-hmm. So having the change up with the mustard, with the vinegar and the salt is like when you really need it, man, it hits just right. So next year we're going to try to get Jedi Mustard packets. Mm-hmm. So we'll be hustling packets, giving them out. So we'll have to find you next year and get you some.
So you're saying personalized mustard packets?
Yeah. We'll see. We don't know if it's a possibility in the world.
We're going to try. That's the direction we're trying to go. I think it's possible. Got to do a little research, see what we can come up with, but it sounds pretty fun.
It does sound fun, and you've got 11 and a half months to figure it out, so you can do it. Before we go, I wanted to give you guys a chance to do a shout out because before we push record, you were talking that you guys are podcasters as well. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so we have our podcast is called Frank and Honest with TNA, and the whole premise of it is we like to cultivate happiness through curious conversations. So we bring people on board that love doing what they're doing, and have curious conversations about it and really just see what they're doing specifically makes them happy, and how it goes into overall health and wellness and well-being.
Mm-hmm. Cool. I'll add the link to that podcast in our show notes for this episode.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, we're on YouTube, Spotify, Amazon Music, all the things.
But we aim to have a pretty good time, and it's my personal goal so one of our buddies that helps us record it is my personal goal is to get him to laugh out loud. I haven't done it yet, but it just lends to it's a pretty fun little podcast. They're pretty fun conversations.
Excellent. I'll have to tune in. And I got to say thanks, guys, for coming on the podcast and telling your story and opening all of our eyes to the value of mustard.
Team, may the mustard be with you.
Yes, may the mustard be with you.
Thanks for tuning in to the Just Go Bike podcast. Murph and AP will be back next week. In the meantime, check us out on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and X, formerly known as Twitter. And if you would like to contact Murph and AP with a comment about the podcast, or maybe you have a topic in mind, email them at justgobikepodcast@gmail.com. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to this podcast, especially if you're a fan. Until next time,
Just go bike.
Theme song by Ryan Steer, logo by Suzanne Milosevic, produced by Kathy Murphy, social media by Andrea Parrott, intro by Pumpkin. Until next time, just go bike.